case. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it'll be totally fine because it's usually about 20, 30 minutes. Hey everyone, it's Ryan Grimes here with McKenna Elizabeth. Today we're talking about two things. The first one is how great teachers are, especially when they leave education and go do something else, and how that skill set translates into them being amazing, and how sales works because sales is hard. And if you don't have the right mindset for it sounds terrible. Um, so, uh, McKenna, thank you very much for joining me today. If you want to introduce yourself and tell us your story about how you got to right here, right now.
Right here, right now. Yeah, so my name is McKenna, and so my teaching experience, a little bit about my background. So I grew up in a small town. I didn't see a lot of different opportunities for women as far as like careers that were available. I just thought, it was like teaching, nursing, being a mom, kind of like didn't know, what my options were. But I was an oldest kid. I like to be in charge, and I was like, what's the quickest way to be in charge of 25 people? Be a teacher. And so I joke, but I got a degree in elementary education and went and got my license and everything in the state of Indiana. And then towards my last year of college, I started to like really kind of question if this is what I wanted to do long term, because I saw how much blood, sweat, and tears teachers were putting in to their curriculum and after school and to the kids and the parents. And I had and I also had a lot of student loan debt. And so I had to figure out, how can I make ends meet with a degree that's not going to help me do that? But then also, like, can I see this for my long term, for my mental health? Can I see this being a sustainable career for me long term? And I love to teach and I love the communication aspect and the relationships and all of that. But I just didn't feel like it was something that I could make it through 20, 30, 40 years long term. And so that's when I graduated. I was like, you know what? I'm going to go look for like account management and sales roles because I love people and I'm outgoing and I'll pretty much talk to anybody. It'll be fine. So I opened my LinkedIn to new opportunities and had help kind of filling out, help building a resume that would be more attractive for those types of roles. And then started getting in mails because I had optimized my LinkedIn. So I was getting in mails from recruiters. I was also doing outbound applications and things like that. And took a couple different interviews for recruiting roles, which often funnel up into sales roles typically if you're doing it for like a consulting firm or a staffing firm and things like that. So got my first job in IT recruiting and then moved into sales for that same company, selling consulting services, staffing services, and custom software development projects. And then moved to work for a SaaS company, which is software as a service, a product company, where I'm selling a subscription, a software subscription to customers, and worked in both customer success and sales in that company.
Oh wow! So you did you saw the writing on the wall before you even saw the wall, really? I mean,
Yeah, I did. And I financially, I don't think I realized, okay, well, this is what my monthly student loan payments are going to be. Like, I can't actually afford to live on my own and pay my student loans and all those things without having a second job. And I saw that teaching is a lot of work. It's a lot of hours and it's a lot of effort that you don't get paid for when you're off the clock, And
Mhm.
so I think that was another piece that I just noticed as I was like viewing it from the outside.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, I took kind of the same journey. I mean, I got my degree in the late 90s, taught for a year, and was like, wow, parents are terrible. Um, and I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. I'd rather go do, technology. Technology was the new hotness that was coming out way back in the day. And I was still working for a school district and was doing their technology and working with the teachers, and it was fun, but ultimately the same thing. Like, it wasn't going to put food on my table long term. Like, it just there was no path forward with it. So, my wife and I back, God, it was 20 years ago now, we decided to move out of state, get a new job, start a company. Back in 2004, you could get a mortgage and not even have a job. So that kind of helped us get this started. And then it's been, it took me 17 years to develop a sales process. And then we finally did it. And that's been a huge differentiator. And a lot of it is our success and our growth is due to all those skills I learned going through school to be a teacher. I mean, it's really,
Hmm.
that's, was just crucial on our ability to make the very complicated seem simple, because that's kind of what teaching is all about.
Right, right. Absolutely.
Yeah. So, we'll talk about some of the attributes that you feel, the teachers have that they should, that would make them successful elsewhere. Because as you and I both know, they've got some guilt associated with leaving the profession, right? Because they've dedicated themselves to this and this is their calling. And
Hmm.
sometimes it's hard for them to leave, even when they really should.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, and it does kind of like become part of your identity almost for a lot of people, and so it's hard to like walk away from that identity. One a couple things. So I've coached about 90 career coached about 90 people through these types of transitions into sales and into customer success in the tech field over the past 2 years, and um, there's three things that teachers are really really good at that really translate well. So number one in sales especially is the ability to ask really good questions and be insanely curious, because you're standing in front of a classroom all day and your whole job is to get students to think critically and hey, like, why is this happening, what do you think? You're constantly asking questions to engage your audience, which is exactly what you're doing in sales, to identify their problem, what they've tried to do so far, potential solutions. Like, you're just having them lay it all out there for you. And so being a good salesperson has nothing to do with being persuasive and all these things and just grandiose. It's all about asking good questions. Secondly, teachers are very organized people generally. Like, you're used to juggling like parents, students, administration, all of these different tasks, and keeping everything in line and organized and planning and prepping. And that's also super important in sales, right? Before you're getting on calls or meeting people, customers for the first time, or prospects, right? You're doing a ton of research into their company and to what they do on LinkedIn, looking for commonalities, prepping yourselves for potential problems that they might want to address, things like that. And so that will, kind of remain the same there. And then also, and you and I were talking about this earlier, Ryan, is being able to break down really complex ideas or complex topics into ways that people can understand. And this is so, so important, especially in tech, because you can't be talking about very highly technical concepts and very like complex software. And you have to be able to really have the customer break down for you their business process, how they're doing something today, but then also say, okay, here is how we're going to address it. And you just kind of lay it out in very clear ways, and not be talking in circles and doing the whole like the ranting that happens, because you can't do that in a classroom. You'll lose your students like that. And so you can't do it with your customers either, and that's why teachers make really good salespeople.
Absolutely. I mean, it's really, the skills just translate so well. I mean, I'd even add on listening, because that is so crucial. Because when we start talking to a prospect, it's like, hey, McKenna, what are your business goals? Like, what do you want to accomplish? Yes, I own an IT company. Yes, we do like the cybersecurity and all that stuff. But we also are working to make your business better. So, what is your business goal? Like, where do you want to end up? And shockingly enough, like prospects, I mean, it's like an hour conversation just because they're like, oh, you actually care about me? Hang on a second. Like, I really want to, just spew out all this stuff, because I mean, it's like a therapy session almost, because they're like, oh my God, I'm so frustrated. The cloud doesn't work. Our network sucks. Like, nobody can work from home. Like, the phones don't ring. Like, all these things that are happening, and you've got to like take all that in. But if you didn't ask the question and you didn't listen to the answer, then you're just not going to know really and truly what's going to help their business.
Yeah, absolutely. Because a lot of salespeople will just jump into their pitch and this is what we do and this is who we are. Da,
Yeah.
da, 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 da. And then I'm like, well, but like you might be talking about something that they don't really care about,
Hmm.
like really taking the time to figure out what they care about first, before just running your mouth.
And that's another thing, empathy, right? Because you really do care. Like we tell our clients we care exactly as much as you do. So if this is the most important thing to your business, then it's the most important thing to us. Like if it's not important to you and you just don't care, okay, we're probably not a good fit. But
Yeah.
I'm not going to sell you if we're a bad fit. Like I just like, okay, it's not going to work. Like, this is how we work. This is what you want. It's just not a good fit. And but if it's you're like, hey, this is mission critical. Like I've got employees that are going to leave. This is terrible. We need to fix this. Then yeah, we jump right in. It's like, okay, great. Like let's make this our most important thing too, because that resonates with them, and it's important to us. It's not like it's not fake, right? It's not being projected if it's not authentic. And teachers can't really great teachers cared, right? That's the biggest thing they have. I remember many teachers, even though I've been out of school for a good long time now, I still remember them by their names because that teacher cared. That teacher took me aside when I needed and told me, hey, you're being a big dum dum. Let's get back on path, right? And that's the same thing that salespeople need to do too. It's like, hey, no, that's not really what you want. Like, let's take a look at this, and you make them, you let them understand that that's really what they want.
Yeah. Have you hired any teachers since starting your company?
Just one, my wife. So we were both teachers. She's our marketing person, so she's kind of the taskmaster at getting all the behind the scenes things done, which is again something teachers are great at. I mean, the lists are impressive. There's a lot of
Mhm.
them. But we really have we've worked with business owners that were teachers, and they've greatly appreciated our like, oh, were you a teacher? Yeah, okay. Like, it's that connection you have. Like, yeah, I was a teacher way back in the day. Like, I've taught kids all the time. We even do like we do I still believe this is very important. Like we do job shadowing for students that are looking to get into this and kind of
Hmm.
do things like that because like most education, part of the reason the system doesn't is having some issues is a lot of the information is antiquated, right? So, by
Mhm.
the time they're going through a 4-year, college or even a 4-year high school program or 2-year high school program for a topic, it's already out of date. I'm like, that stuff's cool. Like it taught you the framework with how to work, but here's the real world, and then we bring
Yeah.
them with and show them all this stuff, and they're just like, oh my god, like this is so much more complex. I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, it really
Yeah.
is.
What are your thoughts? This is just such a fun topic for me
Yes.
about the future of education, specifically higher education, now that we have AI and that's such a huge part of writing now,
Hmm.
and just different tasks that people spend a lot of time learning in college that, you know, might not be as helpful going forward. So what do you think the higher education field is going to look like 15, 20 years from now?
Oh man, this is a my wife is probably watching this going, oh God, don't say it. But I think, I mean, personally, higher education needs to be completely rebooted because you don't need to go to school for 4 years to learn all these not even related topics to learn how to have a job. Um,
Mhm.
and I actually I was invited to go speak to the college and careers class at our local high school, and I told them that I'm like, you if you want to get into technology, like I really wouldn't go to a 4-year degree. I would not go to a college because the debt is the cost is astronomical, the
Yep.
content is kind of sort of out of date, and the college experience is okay, but is it worth $100,000, $150,000,
Mm-mm.
$200,000? Like no.
Yeah. No.
Our last full time hire, had a 2-year degree from Vincennes University, and he's like, I'm going to go back to school. I'm like, no, just come work for
No.
me. He's 22 years old now. He's been working with us for almost a year, and he's been killing it. And you don't need to go to college to do this stuff. So I think that something like the old internship programs or like vocational programs,
Yeah.
modeling that style for our industry is huge for tech because that just makes more sense.
Yeah, and honestly, tech, they care way more, especially in the networking field, hardware,
Hmm.
even software, like when you're on the technical side, way more about your certifications.
Hmm.
Like the certifications go a long way, and that's really where your income is going to be
Hmm.
impacted if you're, thinking salary. Like no one cares. Like you have your master's degree. Okay, well we're not going to pay you more for that. Do you have an AWS certification?
Hmm.
Or something like that? Like that's what we care about.
Yeah. Exactly, and you hit on it earlier. It's curiosity. I mean, curiosity and empathy are the two skills we look for in our industry because every position we have is client facing. So we don't have people hiding in the background, you know, doing the big stuff. Everyone's client facing. Everyone has to talk to a client. Everyone has to be able to communicate effectively, and that is very important. And it means more to us that they can do those two things than if they remembered I remember in college like but one class I needed to graduate is like world geography, and the final was know everything on earth. I'm like, what does this pertain to? Like, why does this even matter? And I was like, this is stupid. Why am I sitting here doing this? And it didn't make any sense then, and now that I've got to pay for it, it doesn't make any sense now.
Right. Yeah. Yep. No doubt.
Yeah, it's I've got three kids. My first one tried college. It was during COVID, so it's a little bit different
Mhm.
scenario. But he's
Right.
an electrician now. He's going through the apprentice program. My middle kid, he doesn't. I mean, unless he gets some money to play football, he's like, why would I go to school? Like that doesn't make any sense. Like that seems like an incredible waste of my time and money. And my third kid, she's like, I don't really know if college is for me either. She's like, the skills I need to do what I'm interested in, I don't need to go for 4 years or 5 years and
Mhm.
spend, 150,000 on this because that doesn't matter to me.
Yeah. And I think it'll be interesting as the people that are in the hiring manager seat start to, like, the generation starts to shift, right?
Mhm.
Because it's something that Gen X and Boomers still care about because they were told to care about that. Like that was really really important when their generation was getting their first
Mhm.
job. And now with the internet being accessible to all, AI being accessible to all, certifications, online education, which also didn't exist at that point. Like it's just a whole different ball game, I think. And uh, I know there's certain careers like doctors and like
Mhm.
pharmacists, things that you know you probably don't you want a little bit more than an online certification because somebody might die. But everything else, like you said, the soft skills hold a lot of weight. And you think about, like, I did it. So one thing that interesting that I did, from a data perspective, so I actually pulled all of the solutions consultants, salespeople, and customer success managers that worked at the company and looked at all of their degrees, or even if they had a degree, went all their LinkedIn, did like a whole analysis. And most of them had a degree in business, which kind of applies to sales somewhat. And then there was a bunch of random ones, like
Mhm.
just all over the board: religious studies, kinesiology, education, like sports marketing. Nobody really had a degree that was like really relevant unless it was like technology for solutions consultants.
Mhm.
But even they had a lot of different kind of backgrounds. So and then some of the best salespeople had no degree at all. Because you can't train your way to being driven. So I just thought that was interesting.
Yeah, it looks like we had a comment here. Oops, I got to kind of. Yeah, McKenna, Megan says, 7 classes away from getting my degree. I've changed my major so many times. That's the thing. Like, I changed my major twice, changed schools, and changed states. No, actually, I went to the same state. I went from Bradley University to Illinois State, and it was just like this whole thing. Like they're like, oh, this doesn't transfer. These other things. Changing majors was very difficult and very expensive. And I just did it because I knew I hated engineering, which I suck at math, so I don't know why I thought I'd be an engineer. but that was just another thing to take into consideration with going to school. Like what happens if you decide, because we're asking a 17 or 18-year-old kid to make a decision on what they want to do for the rest of their life. And if you polled every 40 to 50-year-old in the United States and asked them if they still did something associated with their college degree, how
Right.
many people would say yes?
Exactly. Most aren't. Most aren't.
Yeah. Yeah, most
So
of the kids that know going to school are like, well, I got money for football, or I got money for grades, or money for this. Like that affected their decision, but they have no idea what they want to do. And making them make that decision at that age is stupid, especially when there's six figures in money tied up in the decision too.
yeah. Yeah.
And it just, we need to make better decisions, as a society for this stuff, because we need to make sure that people are getting the right education to do the things that they want to do. And, we kind of gone over into this other subject, but,
Yeah.
it's very important because, we need to teach the skills for the jobs that the people want, not for necessarily what we think they should do with those skills. And, a lot of those soft skills for teachers just translate well, especially patience. I mean, like,
Mhm.
I don't know about your industry, but we are, we definitely deal with, stressful situations. And the skills I learned in education dealing with kids are definitely applicable to those
Mhm.
scenarios.
Yeah. Yeah, I was trying to think of other things from a teaching perspective. So I think, well, so actually, here's one thing I wanted to hit on. So a lot of
Mhm.
sales sounds daunting to a lot of people that don't really understand modern sales. Like, if you've never been in a sales role, you might associate it with like the door-to-door salesman that's, selling you landscaping or whatever, or pest control, things like that, which not that there's anything wrong with that. There's a lot of money to be made in those industries for sure. But there's a lot of like I sell 100% remote from behind my computer. Like I just schedule Zoom calls with customers and talk to them about their goals and their plans and things like that. And so uh, is there a quota? Yes. Like am I, you're often held to selling a certain amount or doing a certain amount of activities. Yes, but the job itself, like talking to people and just understanding what they want to do and helping them get there, like that is so fun.
Mhm.
And so rewarding and tickles the brain and all of those things. And so if you used to standing in front of a classroom of people or parents or whoever it is, sales is not you're going to get in and you're going to be fine. You're like I remember like going into recruiting, going into sales, you're just like you kind of you're so numb to being like on the spot. You're just like because you're used to it. You've been on this. You're always on the spot. You're always
Mhm.
on, and so it's really not as daunting as people think. It's really not as difficult as people think in comparison to the responsibility and the time commitment, the weekend hours that you're putting in for teaching. I don't work on the
Mhm.
weekend at all. I don't even answer emails on the weekend. Rarely. Like I have that boundary for myself. I know it's maybe a little bit different for you as a business owner. Um, but you can have those boundaries in place for yourself.
Mhm.
You can work as much as you want to. Um, and I don't know. So it's not as scary as you think, and it's not as
No.
hard as you think. Whatever you're doing right now, I promise you it's way harder than what most people are doing in corporate today.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's absolutely bonkers the level of responsibility teachers have. Um,
So much.
so McKenna, how can people get a hold of you? If there's a teacher says, you know what, I want to do this. I want to at least, because summer's kind of coming up, and like, what, I want to do something different. I want to see if this is for me. How can they get a hold of you, and how can you help them?
Yeah, so I have a lot of resources and I also do one-on-one coaching. And so my email is just my first name, McKenna at itstechsocial.com. Also in my LinkedIn, there's a link to like all my socials, all my information there, so you can contact me directly from there. I do offer kind of a variety of things. So I offer sales coaching for people that are in like that entry level, the first couple years, 5 years of sales. And then career coaching is really by request. But I've worked with teachers the most out of anybody because I understand your world and I know how to get you to translate your experience, like how to teach you how to translate in an interview. And then all my socials, so my YouTube, my TikTok, and my Instagram. So YouTube and TikTok are McKenah.Elizabeth is my username. And then my Instagram is McKenah.Elizabeth.pro because I have my personal and I have my professional. So you can look at my content and reach out to me on those.
That's awesome. Thank you very much for your time today. If anyone wants to get a hold of me, my email is ryan@myitnd.com, or you'll connect me on LinkedIn. I've already got some more connections coming. So
All
there you
right.
go. Awesome. Thank you very much for your time today.
Yeah, thank you. It was great to
Yeah,
talk.
absolutely.